really a working session for you all. So at any time, please just, interject, raise your hand, let us know what your questions are. It's really important for us that you use as time as much as you need. So there's no such thing as a dumb question. Ask, we'll answer. If one of us doesn't know it, we'll try to find it internally during the call. This was really time for you. So, we've set aside a good time chunk, but if we end up running over, we can take questions and I can facilitate those over the weekend back to you guys. So, oh, Kyle's joining now, so get ready. All right. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Jason and Sean to kind of take it from here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Logan. It's too bad we're already recording because I was going to say some things about you too there, but I guess we'll have to skip that. But thank you, everybody, for joining. So we had a couple of things that we wanted to walk through and hopefully actually have someone on your team share your screen in the staging environment and kind of walk through a couple of workflows in the admin console and then in the prescribing application as a test prescriber as well. Kind of go through what it looks like adding a clinician as your clients would, the same view they would have, and then as a clinician going through the IDP and TFA setup in the prescribing app. And along the way, we can answer any questions, or once we complete those workflows, then we can just kind of hammer out all of those questions, if that sounds good to everybody. So the first thing there would be and Sean, I know you were going to add those users in the admin console. So he's just popping this into the chat here. These two users with these two email addresses that Sean just posted in the chat, those will have access to the staging admin console as well as the staging prescribing app. So I don't know who is the lucky winner here, but if someone from the Patterson team wants to share their screen, we can walk you through some workflows in the admin console first and then jump over to the prescribing app. And you'll get to kind of get your hands on it firsthand, and then we can answer any questions along the way.
So Lindsay or Kelly, would you want to go ahead and share your screen?
I can definitely get my screen shared. We were hoping that someone that hasn't actually used it, because Taylor and I both have been in it.
Okay.
So we were hoping
he's not going to make it, Linz. So you can go ahead and do it.
All right, Lindsay, I just made you a presenter, so you should have access.
And Lindsay, will you have access to either of those email accounts?
I do not have access to either of those.
Oh, okay. Do we know who has access to those emails? Because we'd want to start from there, as those ones will be the ones that will get the welcome email.
Kyle, do you have access?
I don't have access to the escalation one, no. On the e-service side, on the PTC DoseSpot support tickets, yeah, I have access to that shared inbox.
Can we start with you and then turn it over to Lindsay then?
That's exactly what I was going to recommend, Kelly. Yep.
What do you want me to do?
Just access that email. There should be a welcome email in there from DoseSpot. So we'll just have to have you do that first step of setting up that password.
Yeah, there's no email in here for it.
Is there a spam box? And I can send out a password reset as well. I know sometimes we will see those come into
Where's
the
it
spam
coming
folder.
from?
From the
There's going to be like a support at DoseSpot or something like that.
correct. Let me get that exact name of that email for you. 1
Okay.
second.
I think
Well,
it's
the
my
reason-
staging support at DoseSpot.com.
Well, I'm wondering if because at DoseSpot, because of the tickets, Lori, that we move them to my mail rules actually send them over to Oracle.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to double check that one.
I
Hey,
just
there
forwarded
it
you a
is. Yep,
different
they're
one,
here.
Kyle.
Awesome. Okay.
Well, it's in Oracle, so I haven't worked Oracle. Okay. So let me. So really, here's set the password for the prescriber. This is basically email, but it got forwarded to our ticket inbox for Oracle. I don't know, is it even going to work? Yeah, there we go. Should open. Come on, Cletus. The token provided has already been used to reset a password.
Oh, all right. When you were looking, I did just send out an
A new
email.
one?
Yeah, password reset. My apologies. That negates the previously sent one once we have to do a new email out.
Should be, here we go.
And so just to confirm, whatever Kyle sets up now is the password. Anybody that we want to use this demo site would use the same password for access?
That is correct. Yes, both in the admin console and the prescribing UI.
Okay. So maybe not your bank account information then, Kyle.
And maybe document it so you can tell us.
I've
And
been
actually-
sober since Ash Wednesday, so believe me, it's going to be fine.
And actually, Kyle, if I can get your social and the street you grew up on too, just for posterity.
Come on. Now you guys got me thinking again what I do here. Should be that. Okay.
So now we've got a password saved. So whoever wants to share their screen just to go through the admin console workflows, we can use that password that was now set.
Perfect. I think Lindsay's going to do that. Now, is there a limitation to how many people can be in this at one time?
That's a good question, Sean. Can multiple people be signed in with the same username, or is it only one person at a time on that username?
As far as like the username in the admin console, it shouldn't cause an issue. However, on the prescribing app, we'll want to make sure that we don't have multiple users in there at the same time.
And we can add additional test users here in the staging admin console and staging prescribers. So like if we have more of those Patterson emails to use as logins, we can certainly set up as many as needed. Okay. So we are now here in the admin console and we are logged in as a clinic or clinician level admin. So this is how your customers will see the admin console when they log in. So we can go through the steps here for adding a new clinician as your customers would inside of their clinic. So yeah, you go ahead and click that clinic button. This will take you to your list of clinics. So with that drop down, if this clinician admin had multiple clinics they were a part of, they could scroll through there. In this case, they're just a part of this one clinic. And so you see your clinician users there underneath clinicians. We can edit those with the edit button. In this case, we can just go ahead and click add clinician and we can add a new doctor. So again, here, first steps is selecting that role type. So your standard prescriber who does have an NPI number would be a prescribing clinician, as you have selected there. We will need a NPI number. And sorry, Sean, I didn't get one handy. Do you have a test NPI we can use here?
I do. I'll put that right into the chat so it's easy to copy paste.
Thank you. And then we will add an email here so that that user can log in. If you just want to put in some kind of dummy email here, Lindsay, that'll be fine since we're not going to.
We did have a third email that was given to Patterson. I purposely didn't create a user for that so we could do it on the call here. Let me just find that email one more second.
Ooh, perfect. Thank you, Sean.
Here it is. So this was the third one that was sent over to us. Oh, why do you not? Sorry, I'm struggling with Teams right now. There we go.
Cool. So we can use that email that Sean just put into the chat. And so that way, this additional user, you could physically log into the prescribing app as a prescriber in staging with this email. So now we can go ahead and add first name, last name, and date of birth. Sean, do we want to use the test info here so we can get through IDP with this user as well?
Yep. So that's what I was just going to bring up. So because we're in the staging environment, the experience staging environment isn't linked to live production. So we don't actually have actual demographics that we could match up for the identity proofing. However, we have a set demographics that we can pass. So whenever we're creating a user in the staging environment, we'll just want to make sure that we assign them the last name of Bays. I'll put that right into the chat. And we'll just want to make sure that we will be doing the following date of birth as well. So those are the only two caveats when we're trying to handle identity proofing in staging. And the first name can be whatever you would like.
And address can be whatever as well?
Yep, for address, to save time too, you can just click on that same as clinic address, and we'll just pull in everything from that clinic's address into that.
Perfect. So those are all the required fields here. You can add those other non-required fields, but all we need there is the red asterisk fields to be completed. So you can go ahead and click save. So as soon as you click save, you've got a clinician record. We now have a clinician ID for this clinician user here. And in this case, we are in the staging environment, so the clinician is auto-confirmed. But just as a reminder, in production, they're going into that queue for the DoseSpot tech support team to confirm. We're making sure, you know, the MPI matches the name and things like that. But in this case, this clinician is now confirmed, so they would receive the email address the email to their email address and be able to log into the prescribing application. So with that email that you had saved in there, they should receive a welcome email. So now we have this clinician saved. The one thing I will add here is at the bottom left, you see the EPCS requested. So if this doctor was going to be using controlled substances, which for the purposes of this demo, let's go ahead and select that. And we can save that now to the record as well with the save button at the bottom right. And this will now save the clinician as EPCS, but with that, we will have to add a DEA license. So this is something that those clinic admins will be doing under the license info tab. So you can click that and then add a new license. And the DEA there is selected. For the DEA license, it just has to be, for the purposes of staging here, 2 letters followed by 7 numbers. That'll work. We can now click save. You could sign it to a particular state, or you could leave the state blank. Either way is fine.
And just some additional context around that. If a prescriber was in multiple states, we could attach multiple DA licenses to the record. And then what the DoseSpot logic will do is whenever they're logged into a particular clinic, it'll just look at the clinic state and then check those DEA lists. And if there is a DEA number with that matching state, we just suggest that as the DEA license whenever they're operating out of that clinic. Otherwise, there's a drop down where they can choose and do a different one. If we leave it blank, we'll just default to that one.
Now,
So for most of your prescribers, single clinics, you're not going to have to worry about including an additional state.
Now, will they have any issues? Let's say they practice in Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. I mean, literally just right all together now. If they prescribe from Kansas City, Kansas, but the patient decides to get the pharmacy filled in Kansas City, Missouri, how does that work? Does it look specific at the clinic or the pharmacy it's going to for multiple states?
Yeah, we do have some logic depending if it's a mail order or a retail. It'll look at both the patient state, the clinic state, and the prescriber's DEA states, and we try to suggest the best one. But like I said, we'll always have that when they're writing the prescription. There's a drop down where they could select the DEA license.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Sean. So these are just the basic steps if you were a clinic admin to go in and add that prescriber. So the prescriber has now received an email where they're going to log in for the first time and go through IDP. We will come back to the admin console and go through kind of questions regarding duo resets and things like that. But I will pause here just for any questions so far, because we're going to now jump over into the prescribing application and go through that IDP setup and TFA setup. But we will be coming back here for some more items here inside the admin console. But just pausing here for any questions so far.
Actually, yeah, Jason, before we jump over the prescribing app, let's just go through some of the other tabs that we're seeing right now. So we can start with that credentials tab. This is where you'll see that same email. This is where we can also send a reset password. If ever a user is locked out, you will see an additional button right next to the reset password that'll say unlock user. So that's a quick way for us to tell if a user is locked, and if they are locked, we can just click that button to make sure that they become unlocked. And then if we go to that clinic info, so right now here we can see all the RX functionalities that are applied. As Jason stated, in staging, we automatically confirm with just that new RX, but I can go ahead and make sure that the additional functions are applied. Those functions there have to be applied by DoseSpot themselves, but below that, we can see the clinics that the user is attached to. And then below that, to the right of that, we can see that the registration status says okay. We can see we have a check mark because we have that new RX already enabled. And then I'm going to go ahead and push out an update. So if you refresh that screen, we should now see a green check mark around EPA because they just enabled that on my end here. And we can see the registration status is updated when we refresh too. And so now we have that green EPA, meaning that they have both that new RX and the EPA status completed. If we look over at the EPCS, if you can hover over that, we should see that little blue. Yep. So EPS is requested. We are enabled for EPS. We're just waiting for the TFA and IDP to be completed. Once that's completed, we'll come back and look at that again, and we'll see how that will change to EPCS completed. License info, yep. From that, we kind of already spun over that, but we could also, if they wanted to include a medical license or it's kind of out of fashion now, but an NADEA number could also be added right from that screen as well. That first drop down will let us choose either a DEA license, an NADEA, or a medical license if they wanted that stuff stored in DoseSpot as well. Then our identity proofing tab. Over here, we can just kind of see what's been done so far. We can see that there's no IDP done. You'll see no IDP actions. I haven't signed the IDP disclaimer yet, which all happens through the UI. But once they complete, you can see if the user had failed or the user completed successfully. So that'll be another tab that we'll jump back to once we go through those steps as well. So at this point, I think we could, if you wanted to open up a new tab and go to my.staging. Oh, all right. Jason already put the
I
link in
got
the
a lot of
chat.
questions. Hold on.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
no problem.
Fire away, fire away.
So we have a lot of stuff around roles right now where offices are trying to set up for multiple roles. What is the proper process for that? So let's say they're the prescribing, but they also want to be EPCS coordinator. Is there specific steps that they would do that? How does that work?
Yeah, so when we're creating those clinicians, we can select multiple roles. So between the prescribing clinician, proxy, and prescribing agent, those are the unique roles, and you would have to choose one of those three. Yeah, I think if you go back to the clinic and go to the add new clinician, it might be helpful to show this on the screen. That little blue arrow, yeah, you got it. Yeah, okay, so those first three roles there, we kind of separate them out from the other three roles. The proxy, prescribing agent, and prescribing. One of those three roles can be selected, but in addition to that, you would then be able to attach either an EPCS coordinator or the clinician admin role. And that way there, they would have access to both the prescribing app and the admin console. That last role is a reporting. That can be attached to any user. If they do have that reporting role when they are logged into the UI, there'll be a blue little hyperlink that will allow them to run reports right through our UI about any prescriptions that they personally handled.
So would it be recommended, so let's say we're setting up a proxy and we know that they want to be an EPCS coordinator. Would it be best to check both at the same time and then create them? Or would it be best to set up the one and then check it?
Either way is possible. It'll save you some time by doing it just like we're seeing on the screen here, where we can put in that proxy and that EPCS coordinator at the same time. But if you needed to add an additional role to any user, you'd be able to go into that user, the edit, and then underneath that user info, we can just click on the additional role that they would need to have.
Okay,
And
so
then
both
by clicking on that,
work.
save. Yeah, both technically work. Yeah, this would just a few less clicks if you do it all at that first step when you're creating them.
Okay. And
Now,
then
if you
Go
change the roles, like you said, go into the edit, does that do any type of breaking the confirmation on the front end? Do they have to be reconfirmed at all, or how? If they're already
Nope.
confirmed and we're just doing a little role of not being a prescriber or something, or coordinator or an admin, it doesn't break it, or would it break it?
Nope, it wouldn't break anything of our own confirming. The only caveat to that was if someone was accidentally set up as a proxy but needed to be a prescribing clinician.
Got it.
When you do create them as a prescribing clinician, you just have to reach out to DoseSpot just to make sure that we can apply all those ERX functionalities appropriately with that new entity that gets added and stuff.
Hi.
Thank you.
Then with the clinician admin, what all are they able to edit in this portal? We've gotten a lot of people who are like, our address is wrong or our office name is wrong. What changes can they make?
Yep. So currently we are logged in as a clinician admin. So what you can see right here is what the clinician admin has access to. They can manage other clinicians within that office. But if they are looking to make an edit or a change to the actual clinic, if you want to just click to that blue arrow again to get back out to that clinic view. We do have that edit button right in there. Yep. And by clicking on that, you can see what the information is there, but then we'll need a client admin, so someone from the Patterson team to come in and change any of these values here.
Okay.
And while we're on that edit clinic screen, it's worth noting that that clinic favorites tab is there as well. So this is where they can add clinic level favorites. These would be favorites that are available to all prescribers in that clinic.
I think those were the big ones for this screen. Lindsay, did you have any?
Oh, I did. I'm getting back to it. So I see all of these different options that can be enabled by DoseSpot. The one I don't see that has came up is ICD or CDT codes. So is that enabled on a clinic level, not on a prescriber level?
Yes, that's correct. That'd be a clinic configuration. I'm going to ask you to hit that blue arrow one more time, and I can show you where that would populate when we have it enabled. I think we set this up with CDT. Yes, so on that right-hand side where you see the configuration. Oh, nope, we'll just jump back out to that previous screen. So right here, we can see we do have diagnosis enabled as CDT. It's about halfway down the list there. But any kind of clinic configurations that need to be handled for a specific clinic or anything like that that they may request, you'll just have to contact DoseSpot, as that all the clinic configurations are handled by us. We do have a client setting that will be set as like the default ones. And then, but any changes for any particular clinic will just need to be notified about those changes and what needs to be applied.
And so we can take a look at the settings for the top level EagleSoft client in production just to see, like, if we want CDT to be enabled for all clinics, we can set it so again, like that default on the top level EagleSoft settings is to enable the CDT, and then that way every new clinic that gets added will automatically get added with that diagnosis functionality. I'm just looking right now in your production settings. So I do see diagnosis is enabled as CDT in production. So any new clinic that gets added in production should automatically get that configuration enabled. If for some reason they wanted to turn it off for that one clinic, like Sean said, you could just submit a support case to DoseSpot and we can turn that off for you.
Okay. So I think you already addressed one of my other questions, at least for this area. So you turned on EPA in the background. So that is specific something also we'd have to submit a ticket for that to be enabled.
Yes, in production, whenever we get a new user in, part of when they're doing that confirmation process is we're applying all the available ERX functionalities. So if there is a clinician missing it that you notice is missing one of those like EPA or NORX or anything, we would just have to create a support case so we can come in here and make those adjustments for you.
But for all new prescribers, because we do have EPA enabled for EagleSoft in production, they should automatically be getting that, right, Sean?
Correct, yeah. During that confirmation process, we'll apply those ERX functionalities, check to see if we have any issues with like the NPI or DEA that was entered. But that's all part of that confirmation process, is applying these ERX functionalities.
Yeah. I think for this section, that is all of my questions.
I have a quick
Awesome.
question. And this is more of just like a recommendation. If an office has a clinician admin that leaves the practice, do we just let them know to let us know that so we can update that information from our end and reset the password?
Yes, I guess it would be up to you how you'd want to handle that workflow, because you would be able to make that whole user inactive and then create a new user for that new clinician admin, or if there is just a like email being changed to a new user, or we need to set up a new password, we could keep that record as an active record, and then go to the credentials tab, update that email, or send out a password reset.
Yeah, that probably just depends on whether it's like that email specific to that user or if it's like the general office one.
Exactly, yeah.
Or theoretically, Sean, if the office had multiple clinician admins, the other clinician admin could deactivate the one who left?
Correct. They would have full access to either edit that email or make them inactive, depending on what that particular scenario needs.
Right, but if they only have one, then they would need Patterson support client level admin to intervene.
Exactly, yeah.
How do you actually inactivate a clinician admin?
Right from that user's info, right in that middle block. Oh, we can just go right to the user info tab. Yep. And then we have that status right there, and we can just switch them
perfect.
to inactive and then hit that save button. And we'll
Perfect.
get a,
Thank you.
whenever you're making somebody inactive, we have a confirmation just making sure that before that save's actually taking place.
Awesome.
And then while we're here, actually, if you want to go back with the little caret to go back to the clinic screen, there is a toggle where you can see inactive clinicians who were made inactive with that clinician status. So if you did it by accident or somebody came back, you could reactivate them down the road as well, and you can view those inactive clinicians with that list.
One thing I will note too is when we do make a clinician inactive, we do remove the DEA and the MPI number. So if you were to have to reactivate a prescribing clinician, you'll just have to re-enter those values.
Yeah, it's a good recommendation on the few side of the house we've run into is we recommend multiple admins or at least multiple coordinators in case someone is out sick or on vacation. That way they at least have someone that can manage it, or they're going to end up calling Patterson. A good thing too is that drop down that you just had for clinician status is to check for any of inactive users, as you do run into the email address already exists if it's not removed. So if they try to add a new user with, say, the office email and it's already being in use, they may be an inactive user had that tied to them. So that's where you'd have to come here and try to remove it or activate it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any other additional questions there, or do we want to jump to the prescribing app? Sounds like that's a no. Okay. So here we'll use that same email and password that we previously used. Right. And then this will be the first screen that they see. And these will be those 3 legal agreements that all prescribers will have to go through before they can start using DoseSpot. The first 2 are just going to ask for their name. Oh yeah, and just to save you some time, for staging, you can just put in what, there's no validations on the name check, so you can just write in like, okay. Yep, you're good. Awesome. And now this third one, this will be the identity proofing disclaimer. So this will start, and then as soon as we accept this, we'll go right into the identity proofing process. And so for this, I'm going to put in some information that we'll use to fill this out. This is just because, once again, we're in staging. We're not connected to like Experience Live production. So we just have a set of demographics we'll have to use to test IDP in the staging environment.
Do I need the parentheses?
Oh no, I'm sorry. This is just from my API calls. So middle name we can leave blank, and then home address we can just do everything within the quotations there.
So with this being the stage environment, once she goes through this identity proofing process, is that complete for this user so nobody else will get prompted for that, or is it going to reset to be prompted for it again?
Yep, no, it'll be just like a prescriber. So it'll be the first time, and once IDP is complete, we'll be able to just log in and go right into the UI as normal.
Okay.
And that mobile phone number will look to do your phone, as this will be the number that'll get that Experian link to complete the facial recognition.
If they don't check this box, can they still hit next?
I believe they would have to check that box now, because the only way to proceed is through the facial recognition.
That's what I'm wondering, if
gonna
people
send
aren't
that link.
checking it.
And we can leave the driver license will be optional, so we can leave that one blank. Yep, and then so this will be the screen, and this is how we know that they just got that link sent to them. If they needed to update that phone number at this process, we do have that option there on the screen, as you can see.
I do not have my driver's license ready.
Oh no, that's all right. I actually, all right. I hope Teams isn't going to give us trouble here. Just let me. I'm going to attach 2 files here to our Teams chat, and this will be the front and the back license of that fake Arnold Bays. And so we'll just want to capture these images on your screen. One for the front and one for the back. And as you can see, Arnold Bays was born in 1949, but they are very young looking. Let me know if you don't have access to those files. Worst case, I could just shoot you over an email with those files attached real quick.
God, I was just sizing. It's getting a little mad at me.
Oh yeah, you might have to download them and then just open them up in like some picture viewer on your. Yeah, I struggle with that too.
Guess it's wanting to get closer, but hold on. Yes, it doesn't give an option to import either, it looks like.
Yeah, they'll have to be taken from the phone.
I think we're getting it. All right.
And then for those who can't see the phone at the moment right now, the app will ask them to select what form they would like to use. They could use like a passport or a driver's license. And then what the Experian will ask them to do is to show like a square box on the screen, and they'll have to line up that box with their driver's license, and they'll ask for a picture of the front and the back. And then once those both are captured, they'll present like an oval on the screen where the provider will have to match their face up to the oval. And it may ask them to smile, or maybe like what happened to me on the demo was it told me to stop moving. So, but there'll be on-screen instructions for the provider to do the final facial capture for that.
Yeah, it was telling me to stop moving. No.
Yep. Wrong. In fact, let me just double check that real quick. All right. Well, at least we can try to do what happens when they do fail. When they do fail, they'll have 3 attempts to complete this process again. But if you would like, I can definitely go right through that again. Or if you want, for time purposes, I can also complete that IDP on my end if you'd like.
For time purposes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's like I know it'd be best to go through it all over again, but yes, just because I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Okay, I'll have you just refresh your screen one more time. Great. So that's after the provider's completed the identity proofing, this is the screen they'll be landing on where they can add their patients, search for any existing patients. And once they start seeing patients, we'll populate that recent patient list as well. So yeah, we can just go right into the add new patient. And so right here, we'll show everything that has that red star is going to be those required fields. Everything else will be optional. Oh, we just do some backslashes. Yep, you're good.
While she's entering this, if the prescribing clinician had the EPCS box checked, would they have to complete the TFA before they would be allowed to add patients?
No. So as soon as they complete the identity proofing, they'll be able to add patients, and they'll actually be able to send out any prescription that isn't a controlled substance.
Now I'm logged in as prescriber 1 Bays. If I say this is my front office computer, I run to the back and I need to log in on a computer in the back, but I'm still logged in on this computer. Would it allow me to, or is there anything that stops users from logging in on 2 different computers at the same time?
You wouldn't be allowed to log into that second computer. However, the credentials on the first computer, so you may run into some cache issues if you ran back to that first computer and then try to like refresh and do some things, as we've gotten a new token at that point on the second computer.
So it wouldn't kick them out, but they may run into issues trying to do things on the first computer?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I would recommend them logging out just to stall that, or in case somebody else ran up to that front computer and started doing things.
Okay, so do we want to go through the add prescription workflow here?
And even before we do that too, we could also show how we could add a preferred pharmacy for this user as well, or this patient as well. So we do have that, both the add edit pharmacy button, along with that add edit drug allergy as well, if we want to attach any allergies to this patient record. But over here, this is our pharmacy search. I will let you know that we are in staging right now, so there is a separate, SureScripts has a completely separate staging pharmacy list than they have as production. So you may see some pharmacies like CVS and stuff like that that will show up in here. However, if we tried to use those, we would get a transmission error back. And that's just because of the way that pharmacy is set up in staging. So we do have, if you wanted to search for a pharmacy called Schollenberger, you can search for the name as SHOLL, and it should be the only one that comes up. Oh, just in the name, not the zip code.
Yep.
That's all right. Friday afternoon, I know that feeling.
I'm so used to searching by zip code.
Yep. You just on default. Yep, that's the one we want right there. And this one's this is just a good testing one that we have that is set up that will be able to return back like a pharmacy verified if we successfully send out a prescription. So that looks good. We can close out of that and we can jump right into that add prescription workflow.
And then right above that medication search, we do show that CDT diagnosis search. If we wanted to add that as well, we could add it there.
And we can search that either by the diagnosis code itself or by the symptoms.
And I will note here as well, just because we are using a random test patient, that we won't see the real-time prescription benefits or the insurance plan at the top of the screen under coverage details, just because this is a fake patient who doesn't have any insurance.
We do have some documentation if you would like. Basically, it's patient demographics that we can create patients using those demographics. And in the staging environment, we'll then be able to see the eligibility information, ODF, and RTB information as well. So if that's definitely something you want to demo in the staging environment, just let us know. We can get you a file of basically a bunch of patient demographics. Yeah, similar logic here, where we'll be having any required fields will show up at that red star. And that's, yeah, once again, we're not seeing any patient-specific pricing just because we don't have that insurance information populated. But yeah, and then that star right there, that's a save as a favorite. Effective date's not required. It would be only required on Schedule 2 level controlled substances. But you can always include that information as well. That mail to patient, that's actually not going to change anything by the prescription. Once again, when I was talking about that DEA license, that actually will factor into our logic in the back end. And what we're doing is we're looking at the point of pickup to try to determine the best DEA license for that particular prescription. But that's where we'll have that DEA by state come into play if they were in multiple clinics, different states. And yep, and this will be, so when we click on that star, this will be this clinician's personal favorite. This will be different from those clinic favorites that we did see in the admin console. In the admin console, the clinic favorites is shared among all clinicians in that clinic. Whenever they're inside of the app and they click on that save as a favorite, that'll be for that clinician alone. And so they'll have full access to create as many favorites as they want, name them whatever they want. And after they create them, they'll be able to edit those as well directly from our UI. And so now that the prescription is created and it's in that what we call the pending status. So this is just that final review before the prescriber sends out the prescription to the pharmacy. This will be their last chance to actually change that pharmacy. They could also, in the actions button to the right, edit that prescription or start a PA if that was required. This one is amoxicillin without a PA. We don't have any eligibility information on this patient either, so that's why we don't see that PA action currently, because we don't know any insurance information to send that PA request to. And so after it's being sent, we'll see it slide down here to that active medications. Once again, that'll have all that prescription information there. If you hover over that status, we can see that we just got that pharmacy verified back. And then if by clicking on that, we'll open up the prescription log. And this just gives us a quick view of all the statuses that they went to. So we can see the active and entered is when we first created that. The sending is when you hit that approve and send button. The ERX is logged. That's more of an internal one. That's as soon as we've successfully hand that off to ShareScripts, we'll log that as ERX sent. And that final status of pharmacy verified is actually a response sent by the pharmacy, just acknowledging that they did receive that prescription. And so now I think we should, yep. Oh yeah, that's Good thing. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. So reprint prescription, that'll just open up a new window and make it like a printer-friendly readout of that prescription. So in case they wanted to keep an offline record, they'd be able to just do that easily by opening up a new window and clicking on the print screen. The reorder button, that will actually create a brand new pending prescription. It'll just preload all the prescription information we used previously and just set up a new pending prescription for that patient. And the remove, there's a couple of different actions in here. So if you want to click on that, you should be able to see. So this is how we can make a market prescription as inactive. So we have two different statuses that could do that, completed and discontinued. Completed would be if they took the full medication and they're all done, we would mark it as completed. Discontinued, if they only took for any reason like half the prescription or stopped taking the prescription for any reason, we can mark it as discontinued. And we have an additional comment. If you click on that discontinued, you'll just see a little comment box that shows up. So any kind of, it's a free text field, any kind of additional notes that the prescriber wanted to put in there, they'd be able to put in there. That last one is a duplicate mistake. So what that will do is this will put it in a deleted status. And in our UI, we won't show any prescriptions in the deleted status. However, if you were to run a report or if we were pulling prescriptions back via API call down the road, we would still include those prescriptions. It would just be marked as that deleted status. And then the medication history here, if the patient does have insurance, we will be able to leverage that to be able to pull back any prescriptions that were sent outside of DoseSpot over the last 12 months through the SureScripts network that were paid for by insurance. So we could do the medication search here, but we'll return blank because we just don't have those coverage details about the with the insurance plan information there. But once again, we do have that list of staging patients where we can use those to get the coverage details and then see both the on-demand formularies, the real-time prescription benefits, and medication history as well. And then, yep, and here we have the add and edit drug allergies. So anytime we need to, this will work similar to when we're creating a prescription. We'll be able to use that search. So it'll take 3 characters, but as soon as we do 3 characters, we'll start looking into our medication database and be able to pull up all the allergy information we would have. And from here, yep, we'll just need those 3 required fields there. And then the reaction is just another free text field where we can include additional context and an onset date if we wanted to provide one as well. But once everything looks good, we'd be able to save that record and we'll see that appear on the left-hand side. Yep. Do you mind refreshing real quick? I'm curious to see what's going on in staging right now. I'll just go right back to add another drug allergy. We should have a record in there now. Okay, yeah, it was just a refresh issue. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, there we go. Now we can see it. And we could also edit right from here. And then if we did edit, we'd see that populate to the right. And then from here, we can be able to move it to active, inactive, deleted status, or change any of that value that we needed there. And then our next step would be then to go through the TFA process. So if you are able to log back into the admin console, because this provider did now complete the identity proofing, we're able to initialize the TFA for them.
Now, while they're doing that, when you create a prescription, I can't remember if it showed it. 2 drugs that really don't interact very well with each other.
Oh yeah.
Does it give a warning and all that too?
Yeah, I have a couple of drugs we could, when we jump back to the
Okay.
prescriber after doing the TFA stuff, we can go right through there.
Okay.
Do you want to do TFA next?
Yep. Were we in? I think we were in prescriber 1 bays though. Looks like you have Adam bays up there right now. This is going to be confusing because all of them are going to have the last name bays, so I apologize for that. But now, once we complete that identity proving, we do see that new tab for that EPCS there. Oh, great. What are we doing here in staging? My apologies. Maybe I set everything up wrong today. Oh,
No,
we're
I
logged in
think-
as
Yeah, we're logged
it's
in
because
as
we're
that
logged
one.
in as this user.
Yep.
So yeah, this is the one thing I was actually should have thought about before we did this. You know what? Let me let's use prescriber base 2 for right now. What I'm going to do is just go through the identity. I'll go through and just set up the IDP on that user real quick. And that way that we can show it on the screen. The reason why we're getting this is because we don't allow a user to affect their own TFA stuff. So because we are logged in the admin console as prescriber 1 base, we're not able to access that EPCS tab. It would be another. Normally, we've been setting up clinician admins as their own users. But if you want to just jump back out and go to prescriber 2 bays, I put them in the same status right now. So we'll be able to show the workflow as normally expected. Oh, and let me add a DA license to that user too. Sorry, hold on 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All right, let's have
Ready to
you
go
refresh.
back to it.
All right. Do we have another email? I would like to just set up somebody as a, probably better to have them set up as a clinician admin by themselves to demonstrate this properly on the call.
They also
Or we
have
could set up somebody as
access to one of the other staging or emails, or want to put theirs on it.
yeah, if anybody wants to just drop an email that they want to use for this, or I could create an email alias. Lindsay, if you wanted to just drop your email in here. And then what I'll do is I'll just add like a +1 to make that an email alias. And then that way that you can log it as I'll do it as an EPCS coordinator. That way that we can show. This is why we don't recommend having prescribers as clinician admins.
Lindsay has to get going. I'll go ahead and take over for her though, and I'll put my email in there.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
And as we are hitting the top of the hour here, Sean, are you able to stick on for a little bit longer?
Yep. We
Cool.
made sure that this was going to be my last call, so we can take as long as needed.
You should never say
Okay.
things like that with Sean. When training's
You know,
on.
you would think I would learn to not say those things, but I have yet to learn that. Alrighty. Oh yeah, might help if I give you a date of birth. We'll just put that. Okay. An email should be on its way to you. And then what I did for that one is I just updated that email to that doing a +1. So when you're logging into the admin console, you just want to make sure that it's the username is going to appear like that.
Just got the email. Okay.
Great. So you'll be able to click on that clinics button in the top right and get right to that clinic now. And I created this account as an EPCS coordinator, so you'll see that show up in that clinic list now as well. Alrighty, so we'll just jump right to prescriber 1 base. And we should be able to go right to that EPCS tab. There we go, and now we have buttons. So yep, we'll just want to initiate that TFA activation. And here we'll see, we'll automatically default to that dual mobile. So that will be good. And then we'll want to, the next step would then be for that prescriber to log back into DoseSpot, and they'll be able to complete the 2-factor steps within our UI.
And was that the one we were using so we can do that, or?
Yep, yeah, that'll be that my staging, and that'll be the same email and password that we had already set up on the call. So.
With the demo, is it best to work on it in the incognito mode? In the staging?
If you do run into any, like if you ever loaded in and you saw like a critical error, that usually means it's an issue for the cache. So yeah, like going in incognito mode, then we're just using the fresh set, so it should get around any caching issues if those do come up.
Okay.
Alright, yep. So now when we log in, you're already going right to it before I can even talk about it. Yep, that exclamation mark right there next to the name will be for the TFA process. And then here's where we'll put in the cell phone that we want to use for this account.
Okay. And since I already have it, will it let me do that for the staging too?
Oh, you will run into a duplicate resource error. When I'm in staging, I do use, there's a couple of like free applications that we can use like on the phone to just make up a fake. I think like TextNow is the one that I use the more often. If we want to use just a dummy account for now for this, I can definitely let you know, make a fake one right now for this demo. Just give me 1 second and we'll just have to do some coordination. But then once we complete, we'll be able to, we'll also go through the steps of like how we deactivate the TFA or change the phone and that kind of stuff. So for that, just give me 1 second to generate. Yes, I want a free number. I do not want to pay $5 for a number. Okay, alrighty. So we can use the number 508 691 2650. And we'll just make sure we check off that bottom checkbox. And so I just received 2 text messages. The first one asks me to install the dual mobile app. And then once that dual mobile app has been installed, we'll use that activation link here. So while I'm going to go get that code for you, if you wanted to set up that PIN, so whenever a prescriber is doing controlled substances, they will have to have a 4-digit PIN set up. If they haven't set up one prior to this step, we'll just, as you're seeing on screen here, it'll be asked to create a pin. Oh, yep. We can't do ascending numbers. We can do descending if it makes it easier. So 4, 3, 2, 1. I may have just told you all what my pin is in staging all the time after I can no longer use 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And so let me just refresh and get a new passcode. Okay, so we're just going to put in 645 328. And then you just want to put in your pin. It looks like we grabbed a lot of times we'll see like Chrome try to autofill that number with a random number. So oh, hold on, that was on me. My apologies. Let me make sure I'm in the right account, Duo account here. I have a lot of them. I'm just going to go back through my resync here. I'm going to rename this a different name just so it's a little easier for me to remember which account I'm working out of. Okay, let's try 159 619.
You said 619, right?
Correct.
And then just in case.
Yep. There we go. My apologies. Open up the wrong Duo account. It's a problem when you have 13 Duo accounts on your phone. But now this prescribe is all set. So if we wanted to go back into that Tiffany test patient, and we could actually send out a controlled substance now. And so here you can see that amoxicillin favorite that was also created for that clinician's favorite. So if they wanted to, not a controlled substance, so we don't want to click it now, but if they wanted, they'd be able to just click that. It'll pull in all that prescription information that was previously created from that earlier one.
Do you have an example of when to search for?
Codeine's always the one that I always try to do. CODEN. Then we should be able to see it. Oh yeah, codeine. Yeah, that's fine. Sulfate oral tablet. Yep, that'll work. That should give us a controlled substance. Yep. And so that's one of the things we can highlight right here is so when we are dealing with a controlled substance, we will show the schedule right below that medication name. And that California is showing us, because we're doing a Schallenberger pharmacy that's from California, that's why we're showing that. It's in case there is like a state specific, we're showing that specific state schedule. And so over here, we can see now that DEA number will now show up. If there were multiple DEAs for that provider, this is where they'd be able to click on that drop down and then select a different DEA for that. We only have one in there for that provider currently right now, so we're only showing that one. This is Schedule 2, so we should have an effective date that's required. So we can see that red star now showing up on that effective date. Yep.
Does that work?
That all looks good. Yep.
Okay.
All right. And now we're right back at the same place. So we'll be able to approve and send out this prescription here. Because we already set up Schallenberger previously, we're defaulting to that Schallenberger pharmacy. And now this is our ready to sign screen. So whenever we're dealing with controlled substances, we just have to attest that this is the controlled substance. So we'll click on that ready to sign. And here's where we can put in our 4-digit PIN. And now with this, you can either do a 6-digit code from the app, or we can click on that Send Duo Push. If we do the Send Duo Push, that's going to send the alert right to my phone. And then from my phone, I can click on an approve or deny button. And I will click the approve, and we should see that go to authenticated. Yep. And now we are able to sign and send that out. And then the last thing I wanted to cover when we're dealing with controlled substances here, if we click on that status box into that prescription log again. So right on the right-hand side where we see that little RX, yep. There's just a few additional statuses we capture because it is a controlled substance. So we do capture when they click that ready to sign button. And then that EPCS is when they've completed that PIN and Duo authentication. So those are just two additional statuses we'll see on any controlled substance prescription. Do we have any questions about TFA within the app before we jump back to the admin console? All right. I guess we can jump back to that admin console now, and we'll review the options that we have in the new EPCS tab that's showing up.
I do have one question with
Oh, yeah.
TFA. Sorry, I had to take on some notes.
No problem.
We have been having a lot of prescribers getting critical errors when doing TFA. Have you guys seen that before?
Critical error. So that could be because the prescriber is using DoseSpot with another account, another client of ours. So if they are trying to use that phone number more than once, we'll have to create a support case for that. And then what we can do is, so the provider doesn't have multiple Duo accounts, is we copy the EPCS data that's already completed that TFA under the different client over to the EagleSoft account. And then at that point, the Duo mobile app that's already installed on their phone will be able to use for either client.
Okay.
And I do know if they are Patterson views, there may be a small delay on that because Patterson's in a separate environment. So we do have to get DevOps involved because there's some back-end work. But if it's anybody other client that's on our production environment, it's a simple, quick copy EPCS data. And then we can refresh the screen now. I think we just have it still from prior to completing TFA. Yep. So now we can see that EPCS status changed to TFA activation success. And if we click on that EPCS tab, we'll have a few more buttons that we're able to use now. So the initiate TFA type switch, that's if I don't think we're going to be using that in our use case because I don't think we're going to be using any Duo token, like the hard token key fobs kind of things. But if for any reason we had to switch from mobile to token, that's how we could do that there. Otherwise, we have the resend Duo mobile. That'll resend an activation link out to that user. So in case that they get a new phone and they need to now re-download the Duo mobile app, once they re-download that Duo mobile app, we can do the resend Duo mobile. So that way there we can get that activation link sent back over to them and they can reset up that TFA.
And that only works if they have the same phone number.
Correct. Yeah. If they do have a different phone, we will have to manually create a support case, and then we can do update that phone number and get the new activation link sent out to that new phone. And with when we do that too, we will also send out that link for that Duo mobile download as well. The other button we have over here is that initiate TFA deactivation. This would only be used if the provider still has access to Duo mobile and everything. To complete TFA deactivation this way, they will have to put in one more TFA code to complete the deactivation inside our UI. However, if you needed to have a provider's TFA just deactivated straight out, you could just create a support case and any of the techs will be able to just force deactivate that TFA token. Yeah, I'm sorry, my brain just completely stopped working for a second there. But we'd be able to remove them and put them back to that IDP success status. And then we can also, the last button is that view EPCS history. So with that, we could just see like when they set up the TFA and stuff. And I think, Jason, was there anything else you wanted to cover before opening up to questions? Or I figure this would be a good time for questions.
I think that covers everything on my list, so we can go ahead and answer any questions.
Yeah, I ran into this. I don't know if Taylor, if you've heard of this going on or not. There are instances at times, where you have the prescriber needs to be the admin. Doctor wants to be in control of everything or doesn't want to trust staff to be the admin. Um, ran into it today about an hour ago to where TFA was done, everything was done properly, but the doctor, when he would be logged into the admin site or into the prescribing site, could not click on add a patient until we removed the admin role.
That isn't. I would probably have to test that on my end. I haven't heard too many reports on that, but that's also something that we don't normally see a lot of either. So I would have to probably look into that a little bit
Okay.
more.
Yeah, because I ran into that and I thought I read a couple of chats on that. They've noticed if they were set the same, then that user couldn't add a patient. I'm like, oh, wait a minute here.
We were
Yes.
noticing that as a trend. That's kind of where my earlier question came from with if they needed
Yeah.
to complete the TFA, because we thought maybe it was related to that. But yeah, we've been
It
seeing
was
that
due
a
to
lot.
the admin role. Yeah.
Yep.
We don't have a lot of users that are doing standalone login with DoseSpot anymore, so it is an area we are need better documentation on. But I would say the best bet would be to make sure that if they are prescribing clinician, to set up a separate clinician ID as just the clinician admin. And
Right.
then we could always do the email aliases if they didn't have a second email, similar to like what I did for Taylor today. We can add a +1 to that. However, we would just have to let the end user know if they were going in, kind of highlight the difference between the two ways that they would log in. But I can also start testing that and talk to DevOps to see what's going on with that as well.
So I have kind of a big list here. Um, what does it look like when you log in as a prescribing agent? Does it look very similar to the prescribing clinician?
Yep,
Yes,
it
it'll
looks
look.
exactly the same. Oh, sorry, Sean. I wanted to grab this one. I got excited. I could answer it.
All you, Jason.
It looks exactly the same. The only difference is that when they first log into DoseSpot, the first thing they see is a drop-down list where they'll select which prescribing clinician that they are working on behalf of. Other than that, it's exactly the same.
Okay.
And I can even show that here if it helps. I've got an example for you.
Yeah, if you want to.
Yep. Same goes for proxy too, Taylor.
Yep. Let me just share my screen here. So when they log in, they will see this here, and they'll choose who they're operating on behalf of. Once they do that, then they just hit the same screen. Everything is the same. All the workflows will be identical.
Yep. And one caveat to that is whenever you're as a prescribing agent, they'll be able to see that approve and send button. However, if a proxy user's logged in, just when if there's any pending prescriptions, they will not see that approve and send button.
Okay.
As proxy users can't send prescriptions, so.
Do you guys have any way for if like the DoseSpot site is down for any reason that people could go to check that or communication would be sent? How does that typically work?
Oh, like a status page to see if DoseSpot's up and running?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do
yes,
have the DoseSpot status page on our website. I can drop that link into the chat here.
I've got that one, Jason. If you want, it looks like you already got it.
And I'll just share again real quick here now that I'm making myself useful. But they will see, your typical application status here. And so this is a link available to everybody. And then we also have inside of the DoseSpot support page. So this would be more for your, Patterson admins. See if I can log in here. But when you go into submit a support case, we also have a banner on that homepage. So if there was something, some kind of a known issue, you would see that when you log in to submit a support case.
Okay.
course, I got to do my 2-factor here. So this would be, folks on your team, something they think might be up, so they're going to go submit a support case. Then when they get here to the support homepage, they would see right here in this sort of special announcement area, if there was something going on, we would post that here. But you can always just use that application status page on the DoseSpot website as well.
Perfect.
All right, Sean, I'm passing it back to you. That's all I know.
No, you're good.
Just to clarify something that was asked earlier, so you said with the clinician admin stage, multiple people can log in, no problem, but with the prescribing stage, it can only be one at a time?
I would recommend only one at a time, yes. But you'll have the ability to create as many additional users now in that staging environment. We'll just need to make sure that we have a unique email address for each one. But once again, we can do that email aliasing if you've already used your email to create additional accounts.
Okay. And then do you guys have any documentation on like standard troubleshooting that would be more probably website based? So, their office is trying to get access to it. It's not working. It's probably not really a DoseSpot stage, DoseSpot issue, but any like common steps that you guys take?
I'm trying to think. I will have to work with that documentation team. I don't know what we have in terms of actual documents. I do know like the most common one we do see is like a red banner when they log in, and there might be like let's say like critical error loading like pharmacy specialties or similar critical errors around that. And that's usually just a caching issue, which is like once again like if we go incognito mode, we shouldn't see those issues arise because we're not pulling from that cache, or if they refresh their cache. Usually most of those issues are cleared out from that one step alone.
Okay.
But I'd have to check with documentation if we have like a good document for you to hand over.
Okay. Something else we've been getting a lot of calls with users who they get set up, they log in, everything's working great, but then the next day they're trying to get logged in and they're getting not authorized to sign into this application.
That almost sounds like it might have been. We've had a couple of cases with that, and most of the time it's the admin user is then attempting to try to log into the UI or vice versa. And I think a lot of that might be become from like Google Chrome saving passwords and login information. So that might be a good first place to check to make sure that they're signing in using the correct email and not logging in as like an admin to the UI. I know a lot of the Google Chrome sites like to view our UI and our admin console as the same site and suggests the saved passwords for the other site.
Yeah. We've also had a lot of customers having issues with the Duo Mobile in Safari. Have you guys heard of anything with that before?
No.
It's a lot of like the links not working, I think is really the answer.
I don't think I've seen any uptick of any like particular like Android versus iOS there. But when those do happen, we can always resend that activation link right from that EBCS tab. And the other thing I will note too is we gotta when we're sending out those activation links, whenever we send out a new activation link, it makes any other previous one sent similar to what we saw with the password reset today. All those older links will then be expired. So they can only use the latest one that was sent out, which is what I did to Kyle earlier today. So I apologize, Kyle.
All good.
Hey, I think that was all my questions. I only got 4 pages of notes. I think we're okay.
One thing, Taylor, I've seen come across in a while is when you send off a prescription and you click on that status on the prescription, and it brought up time units. It's the universal time is the timing of it. We've had questions before, like why
yeah.
is a pharmacy putting it on hold? Why isn't it going right away? It's a universal time clock, so they got to kind of subtract 5 hours, 4 hours, or 6 hours, and it says that they've received it. They're not placing it on hold, and the pharmacy is going to fill it in 7 hours because it's 7 p.m. No, universal time clock.
Yeah, every written date prescription has to be sent in UTC timestamp.
Yep.
So, and then the pharmacy will convert that back to local time.
I just wanted to double check that I have the correct information. When the clinician admin gets added in at first, they should get an email within 24 hours to be able to set their password up.
Correct. Yep. Once you add them into the production, we just have to confirm them. Definitely doesn't have like as many issues with as like a prescriber because there's no NPI or functions to apply, so we won't get like any error status, and you won't see those users in the clinician escalation queue.
And then the same thing is true. Does it usually take a little bit longer when the clinician admin goes to add the prescribing users? Is that usually a little bit longer for them to get verified, to get access?
There are, yeah, because we do have to confirm that, but it should be within that 24-hour window.
Still the
as
24-hour
well.
window. Okay.
But
Okay.
there
Just
is
wanted to
always a
double
chance
check
that-
on that.
Yeah, we could have a typo. We could have to escalate it, and that's when will appear in that clinician escalation queue in the admin console
Sure.
saying that, NPI doesn't match name or something like that. So,
Cool. I think I've seen something somewhere, but I don't remember the answer. So I'll just ask, when offices get charged for this, is it per prescribing user that they have added?
correct. Yeah. So any prescribing clinician, there's a fee. The prescribing agent's a fee, but it's at a reduced cost compared to prescriber. And then there's no additional fees for any number of clinician admins, EPS coordinators, and proxy users.
All right, cool. Perfect.
Okay, Patterson team, any other questions? I guess we'll take silence as a no. Oh, do we have someone?
No, I was gonna say, I think we're good for now,
Okay.
Amy. I think we just need to kind of go back and review, and we'll have the
Sure.
recording for others. And if we have additional questions, we can just reach out, right?
Of course,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
One last house cleaning item. I'm just going to deactivate that TFA that we set up so it's no longer attached to my phone. So if you do have a new phone that you want to use for that user, we get them right back to that TFA deactivation success. So they just, right after they've completed IDP, you'll just have to initiate the TFA, do a new number and staging and stuff. So
Okay.
that way there you won't be sending me through a request for controlled substances.
Thank you all very
Right.
much for your time today. Awesome questions, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank-
weekend, everyone.
Thank you,
Have a
everybody.
good
Great way to
one.
wrap
Thank
up
you.
the
You
week.
too.
Be safe.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.